Welcome in to My Dogs Are Barking on MPW Digital, presented by Heath Riles Barbecue. My name is Landon. I'm joined today by Mr. Tyler Siskey of McCready and Siskey of Quick U, and a guy who has many, many stories, maybe endless stories that keep us all entertained. Tyler, man, at this point, we're halfway through August, man. We only got 15 more days, and then it's football time.
So actually, we got it next weekend. So we got week 0, man. We got week 0 for the real sickos. Let me say that for the real sickos like I am. It starts next week, But I will be glued into the Western Kentucky Sam Houston State game, which I will be the only person in a 6-hour radius that will be watching that. So yes, that'll be me.
Well, I feel like with sport, the way sports gambling has we'll say evolved. I don't know. It might also collapse the civilization. There's so many people that just watch random games that probably wouldn't. So there's somebody that's like, if this receiver for Sam Houston State just gets 3 catches.
Yeah, I don't do the props now. I may be the worst prop bettor in the history. I have hit more. If I put a 7-leg parlay together, I'm going to guarantee to hit 6. If I put a 5, I'm guaranteed to hit 4. I can't do it, man. I don't know. It's always the one that gets you. It's like, I've hit 6 legs. I'm waiting on this Jahmyr Gibbs to rush over 13 yards tonight, and he'll first carry, he'll rip off 1 for 11, then leave the game with a cramp or something. I'm the worst. I can't hit him.
I'm sure it'll drive you crazy after a little while. But man, today I'm really excited to talk about something that really well. I mean, better than anybody who's a talking head talking about it, because you've actually done it, and that is recruiting in the state of Mississippi. And something that, look, obviously, as you mentioned, we're almost football season, but we're not quite there. So as we thought about all these different topics, one of the things is looking at the recruiting class in the state of Mississippi for 2026. And the thing that kind of sticks out is Mississippi State and Ole Miss are nowhere to be found. And so we're going to talk about that and about kind of why Ole Miss and Mississippi State are not more prevalent. Out of the top 20, I think they both have 2 commits at the moment each. So we're going to go over that and kind of talk about why those big programs are able to get kids to lead the state, and maybe if there's a way to change it. So we'll go over all that and more here in just a moment. But first, I want to let you know that this episode and every episode is brought to you by Heath Riles Barbecue, our presenting sponsor. Heath Riles is home to award-winning rubs, sauces, glazes, marinades, and much, much more. It's created by 2025 Memphis and May Grand Champion and 81-time Grand Champion Heath Riles, and his products are trusted by pit masters and backyard cooks alike. You can find his stuff in over 15,000 retailers nationwide, Walmart, Kroger, Academy Sports, you name it. Or you can just go to heathrilesbarbecue.com and enter promo code DAWGS10, DAWGS10, get 10% off. Heath Riles Barbecue, man, they have got you covered. Grill with confidence, season like a pro. You can always trust Heath Riles. I cooked 8 racks of ribs this past weekend for a big group of folks. And that's the thing, man. You're always looking for especially you got some dads there. You're looking for a little thumbs up, a little nod, and it all goes to Heath Riles. So Heath will always keep you covered. Also, man, football season's almost here. You're looking for your new favorite hat to support your team. Look no further than Hovey Dry Goods. Hovey hats are high-quality headwear that'll have your friends asking about them. You can take a look at their collection of Mississippi State hats and other teams at HoveyDryGoods.com. Hovey offers limited edition hats in small batches, bringing a fresh look to some of your favorite teams. Grab your new favorite hat at HoveyDryGoods.com. Also, this episode is brought to you by our caffeine sponsor, ARPA's. In the heart of the Cotton District, ARPA's understands, and Jose and his family there in Starkville understand that the great food and drinks are best enjoyed in the company of loved ones. And look, in the heart of the Cotton District, the best part of Starkville, you can find ARPA's. And look, we'll save you money when you go. 15% off each and every time by mentioning that you're a listener of MyDawgsPod, and you will not regret it. If you're looking for a caffeine pick-me-up, if you're looking for just a great and unique meal, ARPA's is the way to go. And lastly, Tyler, all these coaches, man, you understand a coach's life, and it's talked about by so many people. You think about there's the president that gets talked about a lot. But then also SEC coaches, it's just kind of a weird deal where people talk about other folks' job, and SEC coaches' jobs are talked about all of the time. But, this is a Mississippi State podcast, an SEC podcast. We talk about Jeff Lebby a lot. And if Lebby's able to get over the hump, man, I'll tell you, he might be able to get an extension. He might even get a pay raise. He might even end up being rich. But what does it mean to be rich? Maybe it's less about reaching a magic number and more about discovering the magic in life. Skip Langley is your Batesville, Mississippi, Edward Jones financial advisor, serving clients in the area and across the state of Mississippi. Count on him for financial strategies that can help you support a life you love, because the key to being rich is knowing what counts. So contact him today at 662-563-9843. And together you can find your rich. Edward Jones, member SIPC. All right, Tyler, let's get into it.
Good. That was good.
That wasn't that bad, huh?
That was good.
So when you think about the kids in Mississippi for 2026, I mentioned it, out of the top 20 currently, now things can change obviously, but currently Ole Miss and Mississippi State have 4 total. And that's just not really how things have been in the past. Mississippi State has built their program on Mississippi kids. And Ole Miss certainly has gotten a lot of production out of there as well. Why is that happening, Tyler?
I think we're at the peak of we're in the middle of a transition change. You know, I hate I was talking to a friend about this the other day. I said, I really hate this for the fans. It was almost if it took us, like, it's taken us a few years to figure out this NIL pay for play model, and we've gone to rev share, and it's changing again. What you've known about recruiting the last 2 or 3 years is going to change. I think the 26 class is going to be an anomaly. And what I mean by that is we're in this mixture of going rev share, and some teams are playing by a certain set of rules. Some teams are playing by another set of rules. But at the end of the day, it's about money, right? And so going into rev share, you're looking at programs in the state that are trying to play it for the long term and build the roster for the long term. And at the end of the day, it just takes one. So you got guys in the state, and I'm not going to throw out numbers. I know numbers, but I'm not going to throw out numbers. There are particular players that, hey, they may have 7 or 8 offers, and they're all about the same, and then one team comes in and just basically doubles it, right? And so they're going to chase the check, and you can't blame the kid. I mean, anybody else in your normal job, if you got offered twice as much money to go somewhere else, you're going to pick up and go. So, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to build a roster. You can't overpay for players. And so I think one thing you're going to see a big emphasis on is evaluation and putting value on players. You may not be able to go buy the brand new Lamborghini every year. If you're trying to build your roster, you can't do that. And so I think what you're seeing in the 26 class, particularly in the 26 class, a lot of teams that have a young, talented team are having to spend a bulk of their money on retention. And that's where and so not as much money on recruiting. Teams that are graduating a lot of high dollar players at the end of the year now have a little bit more money to go get recruits, and they can go get some higher end ones. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money. And I think we're in this limbo in the 26 class. And this is not an Ole Miss problem. This is not a Mississippi State problem. This is an NCAA problem. And I think you're seeing Auburn go through a little bit of this. And I think Auburn's will fluctuate back to where they get, they'll be around the top 15 class before it's all said and done. They'll be top 15 to 20. But look, I think you got to evaluate players. Now, the good news is for Mississippi State fans, and the good news is for Ole Miss fans, or the whole state of Mississippi, is I still believe that you can evaluate your way out through the state of Mississippi. I think there's a lot of underdeveloped players that have really good high ceilings, and if you get the right guys, you can hit. But regardless, even if you get them cheaper out of high school when they become players, you're going to have to pay to keep them. It's just the world we're in, boss.
Do you think, I spent equal amount of time of my childhood in Alabama and in Mississippi. So I've heard over and over again this kind of thing of like, I got to get out. I got to get out of Mississippi. I got to get out of Alabama, all throughout elementary school and even into high school. Does that have anything to do with it at this point in time? Or do you think it's just kind of cash related, what you were speaking on?
Well, it's cash related. I mean, and I can't, forgive me, I forget the kid's name, and I apologize because I'm sure somebody's yelling at the screen right now. There's a player that's going to Sacramento State. Okay. Landon, there's a lot of schools between Mississippi and Sacramento State. All right. There's one reason, like, you can piss down my back and tell me it's raining. But at the end of the day, we know why whatever you want to call it, there's a reason that you're going from Mississippi to Sacramento State.
It's the sunshine.
Right. But at the end of the day, and it's not anybody's fault. I'm good for the kid, right? But the schools, if you're not ready to play out of high school, if you need any development time at all, you can't put a ton of value. You can't pay whatever your number is. Every university is going to be different, but the average, and that's the average of everybody, the average is about $13.5 million, right? Is what football is getting towards rev share. Some are more, some are less, but the median is about 13.5. You cannot afford to spend $500,000 on a player that's not going to play on your team. And so it may even depend on the position. Okay. So if I'm really deep at backer, and the best backer of all time is in your state, not the best backer, but a top prospect, blue chip. If he's not going to play for you as a first year player, you can't afford to have that kind of money on the bench. You can't, and you're talking about 13.5 million. Okay. Well, if you're 13.5 million, you're giving a high school kid, 500 grand. If that's the number you're going to go with, you're going to give a high school kid 500 grand, 300, 400, whatever it is. You're giving up a massive amount of your pie percentage of your rev share. And it's just like the NFL, how you build a roster. There's a reason that quarterbacks get paid. Okay. Edge pass rushers get paid. Receivers get paid. Guess who doesn't get paid? Running backs. Okay. So they're same thing. And you're going to see that model is now taking place in college football. And so I think fans, again, I hate it. I apologize on behalf of the National Collegiate Athletic Association. I would apologize to all fans because just the model that you learned and you kind of started getting a feel for, you can throw that shit out the window now too.
Wow. So when you think back,
that's how I feel. I have a business that does it every day, and the rules change every week. I mean, it's asinine.
Yeah, we were talking to the GM the other day for Mississippi State football, and he was mentioning that he kind of, whenever he was looking at the portal, how you kind of break up the pie, so to speak, is using that NFL model. Okay, well, if quarterbacks are getting this much percentage, that's what we're going to do. Is that what it's kind of like right now across the board?
It's the way it should be. All right. Here's what's going to happen, right? And I was telling somebody this the other day, is like, you're going to have a lot of players that are going to get overpaid, particularly high school players will get overpaid for what their value should be. And they're going to go to school X, wherever school X is. One of two things are going to happen. Either A, they're going to be really good and they're going to be worth paying them that money, or B, they're not and they're going to cut them or let them go in the portal. So they're trying to buy a year, but I just don't. There's some asinine prices out there, particularly on the offensive line standpoint. I mean, you can't play for lack of production. I mean, there's a reason why, like, first round draft picks, they get paid more than seventh round draft picks, right? You have to, you cannot afford to have money sitting on the bench. And so it just is, it is what it is, because you have to retain your team. And so you look at a team like Mississippi State, or you look at a team like Ole Miss, or you look at a team like Auburn, you look at these teams that have good young players, and you're going to have to keep them around. It's very difficult to tie up a lot of money, your future money, to somebody that hasn't taken a snap yet.
Is the reason that the offensive line, you mentioned there's some numbers that are crazy out there, because it's so hard to find a good offensive line because of all the transfer, and it's hard to find cohesion and development? Is that the main reason that's why?
Well, I think the amount of players, the amount of high school offensive linemen they're actually good enough to come in and start right away is astronomically low. I'm talking about astronomically low. And so, yeah, just in my time, okay, I'm sitting here trying to think, in all of my time, guys that I was like, and one of them was on accident because we were just so terrible when I first got there. When I got back to Ole Miss, Nick Broker played for us as a true freshman, and he did great. But, like, he wasn't a guy I looked at like, my God, that guy's going to start as a true freshman. The only two that I can look at in high school and tell you without 100% certainty that guy will start for us was Laramie Tunsil and Cam Robinson. That's it. That is it. That's the only two that I've ever evaluated. Like, that guy right there is going to start for us as a true freshman in 20 whatever years. That's the only two offensive linemen I've ever evaluated. And I was like, yeah, that guy right there. So I don't know how many I've watched, but a bunch. Now there's others I didn't get, right? So, but those two in particular. But the point of the drill is this: is from an offensive line standpoint, it's a developmental position. All right. So there are a lot of times you like to. That's why you always see. I mean, y'all all know where I'm going with this. Is like you'll wonder why this guy's terrible, but such and such offered him an offensive lineman. I was like, yeah, they're because he's 6'6", he's 330 pounds, he can move his feet, and he has long arms. I don't like. I'm being dead serious when I say this. I wouldn't care if you gave up 87 sacks, okay, your senior year. If you were 6'6", 330 pounds, and had 34.5-inch arms, and you could move your feet and you were flexible, I don't even care how many sacks you gave up. I'll teach you the rest, right? So, there's a reason that's a developmental position. And so from an offensive line standpoint, it's all going to be about retention. Like those are the teams that are going to do well up front. You got to retain your guys and you got to develop them. You got to go. And I think you've seen teams try to do that in the last 2 classes, try to go younger on offensive line and retain. It's just at this point in time where we are with the portal, which the portal is no longer not even in the same conversation as fruitful as it was a year ago. I think we're in this. I don't think I feel very confident. We're in a transition where it's going to start shifting back to high school recruiting and even some junior college recruiting.
You're talking about the offensive line. It made me think this John Mateer situation, not really the situation individually, but I was just kind of thinking about college kids and how, because of how big college football has gotten, we all are kind of talking about them and really kind of hone in. And it didn't really hit me how weird it is until there's a young guy that I have a relationship with since he was a very young guy who starts at a school in the SEC, not at Mississippi State, but last season had a really tough game. And it was the first time I noticed, like, going online, the amount of people that were dissecting this. I mean, he's 20 years old, and talking about his family and talking about all these things. And it was the first time that perspective went like, oh my goodness, think of everybody who does this, or even think about the moments where I'm even had times of, man, he dropped the ball. Think about those kids, Tyler, as a coach, and you have kids that are grown up as well. Dude, how do you talk to them about not looking at their phone and not getting into their head? Because it's so crazy to really realize.
Look, it's trying to tell a college player, or hell, an adult, to stay off your cell phone. I mean, that's like telling somebody not to breathe, right? I mean, you can talk about it till you're blue in the face. It's going to happen. So I think trying to tell them not to get on their phone, I think that's counterproductive because they're going to do it anyway. I think it's prepping them for what they're going to see. And look, I'm very straightforward with, I say my kids, my player. I was always very straightforward with my players. I was always very straightforward with my children if it ever happens to them, because it's the same thing. I go through it, right? I mean, it's like you're going to have – here's how I always look at it. And I would tell them this. There's always going to be in your life, and this is a great life lesson. In your life, if you take out everybody that's involved in your life or knows you or knows your name, and we'll call that 100%, right? There's going to be 10% of the people that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter anything that goes on, they're going to love you no matter what. Okay? They're the 10% of the people you can do no wrong. Okay? They're always going to love you. There's going to be 10% of the people that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how right you are, no matter how many games you win, no matter what team you coach for, there's going to be about 10% of the people that hate your guts no matter what. And then there's 80%, that middle 80%, okay? They just want you to work hard and do a good job. All right? So stop worrying about the 10% and let's try to make the 80% happy. And so how do you make the 80% happy? Hey, be a good dude, work your ass off, and do a good job. And don't worry about the rest. So you got to prep them to understand what they're getting into. Is like, we live in this society on social media, and hell, I see it every day, right? I mean, every single day. Is like, they want to rage bait you and get you fired up, all that stuff. I like sometimes like giving shit back to them a little bit. It's entertaining. The people enjoy it. So it's more like I always joke, it's like being a WWE character sometimes. But, you just got to get them juice. Got to get some juice, have some fun. But, you just got to make the 80% happy and then you're good. But it's going to happen. You can't prevent it from happening. And, I just don't believe in wasting a lot of times on things you can't control.
So 2 questions, and we'll get you out of here. Coach Kiffin has been asked a lot about the rivalry with Mississippi State, and he's mentioned, and it seems like every time he speaks now, he is like, I don't know, more and more has so much good perspective on life. Like every time he is in that type of a mood, like he just got something deeper to talk about. And I've enjoyed listening to him. But he specifically has mentioned, like, seems like the hate in the state when it comes to that rivalry has kind of died down, which is a good thing overall. But I was wondering, we'll get the hate fired back up here for a second. Whenever you were coaching, was there ever a moment like that you felt there was some like real hate between the staffs, or did it always seem like this is just kind of a thing with the people in the state, not so much with the coaching staffs? All
right. So my experience, okay, I can't speak for every staff, but like Jeff Collins, really good friend of mine. And we used to joke, is like, so when I when I came to Ole Miss, he was like, I can't talk to you now. It's like, what? I didn't understand. And then I never will forget, as long as I live, I'm literally on my way from Oxford to Tuscaloosa, leaving Ole Miss, going to Alabama. I'm not even there. I'm in the car. And he was like, hey, man, just heard, congrats. Now we can talk again. And, and so, but all kidding aside, between the coaches, Jeff's great. And so I've never had any issue like Joey Jones, who I worked for at South Alabama, was at Mississippi State when I was at Ole Miss the last time. Mike McIntyre's was there now. Lee Wilbanks is a good friend of mine, that sat there, and I love Levy. I'm a big Levy guy. I think the world of Levy. And so it's weird. Like, if I was an Ole Miss, I don't think a coach's thing really, because you're kind of used to it. You're a hired mercenary. You're not a fan. I'm not an Ole Miss fan. I was never an Ole Miss fan. I'm not a Mississippi State fan. I'm not an Alabama fan. Hell, I played at Auburn. I'm not an Auburn fan anymore. So I grew up an Auburn fan, but coaching takes your fandom away. And so it's a job. And so, yeah, when we play each other, you want to beat the brakes off of them. But you want to do that against every team you play. It doesn't have anything to do with the school they're located in. If you played them in a parking lot, if you played checkers in a parking lot, I'd want to beat the brakes off of you. I'm a competitive person. But from a school standpoint, it's definitely with the fans. Now, I do think I'm not an idiot. I do think that when Hugh was at Ole Miss, well, Hugh was an Ole Miss fan, right? So it was a little bit different there. And I think Mullen did a great job of stirring it up when he was the head coach, right? And so it's good for the fan base, and the boosters like it and all that stuff. I will say this: I grew up in the Iron Bowl. I coached in the Iron Bowl, and I was familiar with it because I'm from Alabama, but I wasn't really familiar with hands-on with Egg Bowl until I coached in it. The best way I describe it is the Iron Bowl is just bad one day a year. And so the people, they want to win, and they'll talk a little bit during the year. But if you go down the street, right? If you're driving down the interstate, okay, we're driving down 55 South, man, and there's an Alabama fan that sees an Auburn fan broken down on the side of the road, okay, and vice versa. They're going to go, man. They're going to pull over and help them out. Hey, can I give you a ride? Whatever, right? Let's flip it. If it's a Mississippi State fan or Ole Miss fan driving down the road and the other one's broke down on the side of the road, not only will they not stop, they'll sideswipe them on the way past. You know what I mean? They really don't like each other. The fans, they genuinely don't hang out with each other. I've seen it. It's the most bizarre thing. You look at cliques, there's cliques of people at church and in the community, and you go, man, that's a weird clique. But when you look at what's the common denominator, it's who's are they a State fan or are they an Ole Miss fan? So it's this state's on a whole different planet.
It is, man. I live in Tuscaloosa. There's a group of guys I was talking with the other day asking what's the more bitter rivalry kind of thing, and there's so many different anecdotes. But it seems like the Iron Bowl has had a lot of big national implications, especially over the last couple of years. And man, are you going to make the playoffs or not? For Mississippi State and Ole Miss, there's been a few of those, but not a ton going back and forth. It's the actual people that are I'll just say from the outside, that are looked upon as different classes. And so they clash whenever they think this is ours and this is ours. And it's different than Alabama and Auburn because it seems like they're almost in the same kind of boat. They just root for different kind of teams.
Yeah, I think all kidding aside, when it comes to rivalries, it's all about who's leading at the top, right? I think if the coaches of the said schools make it a big deal, it becomes a big deal. If they dial it down, they dial it down. I don't think, I think Lane sees it as another game. I think Levy, I'm assuming Levy sees it another game, obviously, but you're not going to tell your boosters that, you're not going to tell your supporters that because they want you to, it's just, it got to the point, all kidding aside. Now, it was that way when Hugh was there, when Matt was there, and then Mullen, and it got so bad that, I would say, I genuinely think that they didn't want us. Both programs had kind of got to a point, 10 years ago, whenever it was, it kind of got in it was one of the college football playoff polls, they were 1-4, whatever it was. they were so concerned about beating each other that they drug each other down. You know what I mean? Like, they would have rather lost every game, the hell with the national championship, as long as they beat the other one. I'm like, it's not the point of the goal. It's like, let me tell you who it's like. It's like Ohio State and Michigan, right? They're like that right now. I mean, like Michigan doesn't even care about winning down anything. They just want to win. They want to win. They want to beat Ohio State, and then Ohio State's trying to win the national championship. So they lose to Michigan, but they win the national championship. And it's like, what's the goal here? And in today's football, when you got a playoff system, it's got to be another game. It's got to be a notch to 10. It's another game to get you closer to 10 wins, to get you in the playoff for better goals. That's just what it is. I don't believe in fake emotion. As a competitor, as a coach, as a player, I don't believe in fake emotion. And so you get all this anxious, built up energy for what? Like, what is it going to help you? If I'm more pissed off, if me being mad at the other person makes me a better football player, a better coach, I'm not even good to begin with. That's my opinion.
You mentioned Levy in there at SEC Media Days, and probably at all times. He's very, very serious. Let's do this thing, kind of get it over with. And I'm trying really hard to get him to crack a smile in interviews. The one time I got him to smile was after all the cameras went off and everything. We were just in a room talking, and I messaged you about this, but I mentioned your name, and because the affiliations, NPW Digital, all that kind of stuff. And that's the first time he smiled in all that time. Is he just going to crack this smile? And
he's probably on. I mean, dude. I mean, you can imagine or can't imagine. It's like any head coach in the SEC when you're at media days. You got so many eyes on you, and now like you're at the Mississippi State time or the Ole Miss time or the Auburn time. Like all eyes are on you. You're probably like, you probably got to be in a zone. Levy's a good dude. Levy, I'll give you a funny Levy story. So Levy, we worked together technically like a month, before I got a 3-year vacation courtesy of Ole Miss. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Allowed me to start quick. The best. Ross, shout out Ross Bjork. But Levy would always like Lane would leave or go somewhere. We were going over recruiting. I think we were going over recruiting calendar, and he's like, "Hey, you got to go in there and tell Lane. He's got to do that. You need to go tell Lane." I was like, "Hey, dude, you're the offensive coordinator. You need to go tell him." And he laughed. He was setting me up. He wasn't going to go in there and tell him. He would hype me up and try to get me to go in there and break some bad news to Lane. He didn't want to do it. Like, "Hey, you need to go tell him." I'm like, wait a minute. You're the OC. You got to go tell him. But Levy's awesome. I really I think he's a brilliant offensive mind. He's a good dude. I like him a lot, and hope he does well. And I got all my peeps down there at Mississippi State this year, so I hope everybody locks in and has a good one.
Yeah,
it's about that time.
It is, man. It's so close. All right, so finally, I cannot leave without a Saban story from you, because you have just the greatest one. So here's the 2 caveats for you. All right, or two categories. Can you either give us a good Saban story about a Mississippi kid specifically?
Okay.
Or if you can't think of one, I'll always take the story about the Alabama State Patrol going to the Birmingham airport. I think it's the funniest thing.
Yeah, I've kind of like the airport one, and that one I can't even tell. I haven't even told the ending of that one. Like, I told probably like 75% of it. Like, what kills me about the Saban stories is I got so many that I could tell that I can't tell. You know what I mean? Like, we were having fun with it. All the Saban story stuff came up. It was one of the very first ones. I did the one talking about golf and then on about how we went from a staff meeting to Kiva Dunes golf course in 53 minutes, and didn't miss the tee time. I told that story. It gets run by Golf Digest, the whole deal. But the reason that story kind of made me pump the brakes on a lot of them, and not tell some, because the amount of backlash of people like misuse of state funds and this and that. I'm like, brother, if you think that's bad, if that pisses you off, I'm definitely not telling the next one, And so like, there's so many that you're like, well, how will people perceive it? And so I'm always very careful of telling those. because I love Coach. What he did for me, I'll never be able to repay him. I mean, there's not enough money in the world. He taught me so much, and I love the guy. So I don't ever want to put him in a negative light, if that makes sense. But so I won't tell that one because I can't even tell the ending of it. Because again, if I told the ending of that story, oh brother, I'll tell you when we hit the off button. But Mississippi kids, I would one of my, I don't mind telling you, this is not really a good story, but the one, anytime, as soon as you said that, we would go, when he would go to Meridian and go recruiting during contact period. And back, you could only, back then, head coach could only go one time during contact period. And so we had like Raekwon Davis and some other guys over Meridian. Jamar Smith, I think, was a quarterback there at that time. And there was somebody else. Well, there was a couple kids at Meridian. Well, for whatever reason, Coach would we would always fly him instead of the plane. We would fly him by helicopter. Okay. And then he would fly back and then get on the plane and go somewhere where he's going to go. So logistics, right? So I go, and it's my first year I was there. I go and this is not something new. They had done it. And so I'm like, okay, what in the hell are we doing? Like, where are we landing this thing? And so we were landing the helicopter in Meridian in the middle of a field. Okay. And so I had talked to our police officers. They gave me the people that were going to take care of him over there. So I called this trooper, and he gives me GPS coordinates of where to tell I'm a football coach. Okay. This guy's rattling off numbers like 69, 36, 46, 46, 7 west, blah, 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 north. And I'm going like, I'm sitting here writing all this stuff down. And then I'm thinking it's going to be a football stadium, a helicopter pad or whatever. And he goes, you can type it if you'll type it in Google or whatever, it'll come up. So I type all this stuff in. This is in the middle of a field, like a farmer's field, like cotton, soybeans or something. And so I call him back and I'm like, hey, is this in the middle of a field? He's like, yeah, that's such and such's farmland down there. He won't mind. I'm like, he don't know. You're telling me to land this helicopter, and he doesn't know that we're doing this. Like, he'll be all right. I'll be there. It'll be good. I'm like, all right. So then that was enough. So it's not just that. You got to arrange for a car to get there. So you got to like call the local, the FBO or the Avis, whatever. I think it was Avis is who we had a contract with. But good luck trying to get a on the phone operator to send a car and drop it off to GPS coordinates in the middle of a field. Okay. Good luck with that. And so I go through all this, and like I told Coach, I was like, Coach, because Kirby loves helicopters. Kirby still flies them all the time. You're not getting me on one. You're not getting me on a helicopter, right? So the engine goes out in a plane, we can glide her on down, right? Okay. The engine goes out on a helicopter, you're a rock. It's over. So no chance. No chance. And so for me, I'm like, Coach, I didn't want to put him on a helicopter. I was like, I'm not going to be the guy. I'll be fine. So long story short, we landed in the freaking field, and the rent-a-car dude was on the wrong side. Like, so it wasn't. So I got my ass ripped because the rent-a-car was 500 yards in the other direction, because it's in the middle of a field. Like I don't even know what to tell. It's not like, hey, go to this, go to there. No, it was in the middle of a field.
Where now that you say it, does Meridian have an enterprise or something? Like where'd they find the rental car?
So they got FBOs and stuff at the airport. Like, so usually you'll call like an FBO, and they're all in the FBOs. That's usually so like the little smaller airport, like private airports or whatever. They'll usually get them there. Oh, brother, I've heard there's been some wild ones. I won't out him. He's probably not listening to this show. There's an SEC head coach that's not listening to this show that got flown into a small FBO, and they didn't have any cars. And the guy who landed the plane, with the flashlights, was a big fan of his school and volunteered to drive him in his 1974 pickup truck around to go see the kid. And he did. He hopped in the car with him by himself and drove around to see a kid. That happened last year. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Look at the dedication to go and get the player, man. Whoever that is needs to get that out. That's awesome, man. Well, as always, man, Tyler's so great with his time with me and with many other people. You can catch him on McCready and Siskey on MPW Digital. You can catch a lot of great shows on MPW Digital. So make sure you subscribe because the best time to listen is coming up. It's almost football season. I mean, it's basically here at this point.
Week 0 next week.
That's right, man. We're going to be excited to watch whoever. Does Hawaii play? They usually play on that first.
Hawaii plays Stanford.
Oh, let's go, man.
Well, the game today, I'm being serious. Really good game. What doesn't matter what week it is. Good game next week. Got Iowa State and Kansas State in Dublin, Ireland.
A conference game to start the year. Well, now I'll say that Nebraska started a couple years ago against Northwestern in Ireland as well. So as a conference game, it's just weird to think about them starting that early. But that's a great way to start out.
Get my Cyclones fired up, man. Quick, you clients. Let's go.
All MPW digital podcasts are brought to you by our friends at Parish Brewing Company, located in the heart of Cajun country in Broussard, Louisiana. Parish Brewing Company's simple goal is to make awesome craft brewed beer, and they do it remarkably well. The doctor is introducing their new go-to IPA, Dr. Juice. It's a highly crushable juice bomb, dry hopped with a blend of their favorite hand-selected hops from the Yakima Valley in Washington. Dr. Juice's drinkability is sneaky good, considering it clocks in at 6% ABV. The pour glows a rich cantaloupe hue with a thick frosted haze, soft mouthfeel, an aroma and taste that's full of passion fruit, papaya, and blood orange, making it drink like a glass of freshly squeezed juice. They also have Ghost in the Machine. It's a double IPA brewed with obscene quantities of hand-selected Citra hops from Yakima Valley. Expect pungent grapefruit flavors and aromas, tropical fruit, less harsh bitterness than most IPAs. Again, it's Parish Brewing Company. Wherever you get your beer, check out Parish. Make sure that you look for them because any beer that you get from Parish is going to be absolutely outstanding. Thank you from MPW Digital.
Working on MPW Digital, presented by Heath Riles Barbecue. And as always, man, thanks so much, Tyler Siskey, for his time. And people might not know, but like Tyler's the reason why, and obviously Neil has been such a huge help as well. But it all actually started with Tyler, man, just kind of helping me out and sending my podcast to Neil. And then obviously Neil's just been so great. So really, really thankful for Tyler. For those who don't know, like Tyler spends a lot of time on other people's shows that quite literally don't owe him anything, or probably he does not owe them anything at all. But he spends time fielding questions despite the fact of all he has going on. So we're always thankful for that. And man, really, really excited for this SEC season to listen to McCready and Siskey because it's so entertaining all the way throughout, just hearing everything about the SEC. And our show obviously is Mississippi State focused. Like our show is credentialed to cover Mississippi State athletics. So we say Mississippi State, but we do talk about the SEC overall and try to do that with as much of an objective view as you can while having a Mississippi State Bulldog flag in the background of the office. I get all those things. So for the show, man, we've got as we've gone back up to 3 shows per week as we get into football season, and that'll look a little bit different whenever we actually get into football season because we'll have a post game show. We'll have kind of a show kind of previewing the week, kind of the broader landscape of college football, and we do that with Austin. He's not able to join us tonight, but really excited for the future. Really excited for this football season. We're still trying to get the kinks worked out with cameras and audio, and we want to have that kind of 100% by next week. So we're still kind of playing around with camera angles, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. So thank you so much for bearing with us there. As always, man, we appreciate Heath Riles Barbecue, our presenting sponsor. Heath Riles, grill with confidence, season like a pro, 10% off each and every time whenever you enter promo code DAWGS10, DAWGS10 at checkout. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll holler at you next week.